So we've got a high school dropout who builds a $1 billion startup at the age of 23. This video is from what? EO? And yeah, it's got a ton of comments, but let's get
of high school. So I actually dropped out of high school and I moved to the Bay Area and I lived in this place called the Tenderloin. But like I didn't really give my parents a choice. My decision was, this is my passion, this is the thing that drives me. It was actually more than a passion, it was like a calling. I used to believe the smartest people, they went to the best universities. They went to Harvard, they went to Yale, they went to Stanford. That's actually not true. And oftentimes when we've hired those people, we've actually been disappointed and we've been wrong. The right people that are thinking about solving the right customer problems, operating at the right speed is what makes companies grow and scale faster. My name is Samir Vasavada. I'm co-founder and CEO of Vise. So Vise does three things. We help advisors build personalized portfolios, we help them manage those portfolios, and then we help explain the portfolio, where technology enables investment management at scale.
Chapter 1, 13-year-old.
So it's funny because I've looked back to like a very young age. The drivers, like the things that brought me fulfillment in life was always like building something. Like I love to build. And then, you know, the iPhone had come out. I had seen Steve Jobs and I'd read his book by Walter Isaacson. And I'd just been inspired by tech. And it's funny because I come from a very traditional family. My parents were Indian immigrants. We grew up in a relatively small town. The concept of being a builder, of running a tech company was kind of a foreign concept. And the way I actually started with this was pretty interesting, pretty random. I had met my co-founder at a summer program in 8th grade. Our parents had sent us to a summer program at Northwestern. And we had met because our dorm rooms were across the hall from each other. And when we finished the program, we wondered to ourselves, we have all this time on our hands, school's not too difficult, let's make money. And apps at the time were really, really hot. Every small business wanted an app, and we thought we could build those apps. So we learned how to program, we built our first couple of apps, and then my co-founder got a research opportunity at a notable university in artificial intelligence research, and we decided, what if we use AI to automate those apps? What if you could type in your app idea into a platform and we could build you an iPhone app in 30 seconds. And that was our first startup. It turned out to be too much of a technical challenge at the time, suited for 13, 14-year-olds. But one of the guys who was mentoring us was a former investment banker. And he had said, you guys know so much about AI and machine learning now that you should consult with large investment banks, because large investment banks want to learn about AI and machine learning for investment decisions and efficiency decisions within their firms. So we started consulting with a lot of the largest investment banks in the country. And we were charging a lot of money, $500 to $1,000 an hour, which was a great side income for that age. And as we were consulting with a lot of these firms, we had realized that the wealth and asset management space is a really big part of revenues for a lot of these institutions. It was 50% of revenues for Morgan Stanley. But financial advisors at these institutions, we had believed were money management gurus. They were investment management experts. And they didn't necessarily have the tools or technology to be successful with investment management. So we saw an opportunity. What if we build technology to help automate the investment workflows for these large investment institutions? We built our first prototype at 15, and the goal was to sell it to big financial institutions. Now, we didn't know how hard that would be at the time. And Jamie Dimon was speaking at a Detroit Startup Week. There was a local school field trip, and Runick had gone down to go see Jamie Dimon speak. And Jamie got off stage, and we rushed him on stage, and we asked Jamie, would JP Morgan be interested in leveraging artificial intelligence to automate their investment workloads for their financial advisors? And he basically said to us, no, JP Morgan has lots of technology, lots of investment workflows, but you should look at independent financial advisors, because what's happening is a lot of advisors are leaving big institutions and they're going independent, and you guys could provide the tech, the software to power them. So we discovered this massive market of independent financial advisors, and Vise could be the first company to really deliver this. So I actually dropped out of high school, but
So let me pause that. So that in a nutshell is basically don't give up. They were told no, and then they thought, okay, how about this, outside of the box, and created another window of opportunity.
Basically left high school after partially through 11th grade, and I moved to the Bay Area, and I lived in this place called the Tenderloin. But like I didn't really give my parents a choice. My decision was, this is my passion, this is the thing that drives me. It was actually more than a passion, it was like a calling. Oftentimes when people say that you're taking on risk to follow your passion, the actual risk you're taking is not doing that, right? Because like you're taking the risk of, am I going to be miserable in life if I don't actually follow my passion? So I think it gets really challenging to take risk when you have a family and you have kids and like you have obligations and responsibilities, and that's when most people really regret not having taken risk earlier on in their lives. And when you're doing it at a young age, it's actually even more important because like you have the time and ability to take risk. I'm 16, 17, 18 years old. Now is the time in my life where I should take the most risk because I have a safety net to fall back on. So the question is, do I listen to my parents or do I not? And oftentimes you should kind of listen to your gut.
Oof, deep. 17-year-old.
There are over 400,000 investment advisors in the United States. Clients expect personalized portfolios tailored to their needs, but instead are getting dumped into generic buckets of mutual funds and ETFs. Vise AI is an artificial intelligence platform tailored to investment advisors so they can automate portfolio construction and management.
When we started, it was incredibly difficult. I had cold called, cold emailed hundreds of investors between the ages of 16 and 19, and no one would give us money. While I was living in the Bay Area, sleeping on floors, my co-founder had actually decided to go to UPenn and do a year at college, which could have destroyed our business. But I had actually moved onto Runik's dorm room floor, and I said, I'm not leaving until you drop out. And it's okay, to drop out, we need to raise $1 million. His parents said, if you want to drop out or take a leave of absence, you need to raise $1 million. So we decided we're going to go out and raise $1 million. We don't know who's going to give us $1 million, but we set out to do it. And it's funny because we had cold called so many people. One of the people we'd cold called was Jim Getz, a very famous partner at Sequoia. And I found his number online somehow. And I'd called him and I'd said, Jim, this is the business we're working on. But I was so nervous the first time I hung up, and then I called him back and he chewed me out on the phone for 10 minutes and said, Sequoia is never going to fund you. And ironically, a couple of years later, they funded us 3 times over. But when we were in this process, we kept coming against all these road bumps and people just kept rejecting us. What are you kids going to be able to do in the wealth management space? Go find a real job and come back to this. And we ended up meeting these 2 guys, Nat Turner and Zach Weinberg, who started a company called Flatiron Health. And they said, okay, we'll be your first investors. Even if the thing goes to zero, it's okay. We think you'll be successful. And they gave us our first 100K. And 1, we could afford to feed our employees because everyone was working on equity at that point in time. And 2, it was enough momentum for us to kind of get excited and keep going. And then we ended up meeting founders.
I wonder what the equity deals look like, because you mentioned everyone was working on equity back then. So it's only when a company grows to this size you see the benefit of having equity in the company. But the beginning stages must have been super difficult, man. I mean, you're there questioning yourself consistently, is this company really going to go anywhere? Am I wasting my time?
Founders Fund, and Founders Fund co-led a seed round, and we raised $2 million, which was pretty exciting at the time. And Runik had dropped out, moved to the Bay Area, and we had started the company officially. In
fact, let me know in the comment section down below, would you accept if a company told you don't know whether it's going to be successful or not? Would you accept a company telling you, we want you to take equity, we can't really pay you that much, we're basically going to pay you pennies, but we want you to accept equity instead? Would you do it knowing that the company could go bust or it could succeed? Would you actually take that? I'm curious to know how many people watching this would.
The way I think about it is you have individual successes and you have individual failures. And we've had lots and lots of failures, but you never learn from your successes. You always learn from your failures. So our goal is to have as many failures as fast as possible. So before we had a launch-ready product for Vise, we had rebuilt the platform something like 5 to 7 times. So we'd gone from a full platform build to scratching it all and restarting. And I think my one big lesson in this whole thing, there's a Reid Hoffman quote, you should be embarrassed about your first product. We were always embarrassed about our product, but we never actually launched it. We just kept scrubbing it and restarting. If I had to redo it all over again, I would have given it to users, even though I was so desperately embarrassed about the product, because you're going to learn, right? And even if something isn't perfect, a little bit more feedback will continue your iteration cycle to keep learning, keep getting better. So a lot of my early days, every day after school, I would sit in financial advisors' offices and I would just watch them use our product or watch them use other product. And then it builds a really strong mental model and understanding of how do they think, how do they make decisions, why do they make decisions. So a lot of my learnings came from just simply watching them do the work or doing the work with them. And that best way to learn is just to do. So YC has this quote, always be talking to your customers, and it couldn't be more true. As you grow, the hard thing is as you grow and you become larger and larger, you have salespeople, you have product managers, you have people that will talk to the customer on your behalf. And that's actually the wrong thing to do as a CEO, as a founder. You want to always be talking to your customers, whether you're a multi-billion-dollar company or you're a 5-person company. Because the more time you spend with your customers, the better your product gets, the better your story gets, the better you get at sales. There is nothing more important than talking to customers. I actually make it a key part of my week. How much time did I spend talking to prospective customers or existing customers? Because the amount of learnings you get improve your business tenfold.
I agree, my friend.
There's a belief in Silicon Valley that more people and more capital builds businesses faster. And that's actually a fallacy. That's not true. The right people that are thinking about solving the right customer problems, operating at the right speed, is what makes companies grow and scale faster. And the problem when you have a lot of employees, less work actually gets done because you have more people that you're managing, more problems that you're.
I guess that's why initially Elon Musk fired everyone at Twitter, or X, should we say. Like half of the people gone, but Twitter didn't go down, or X, it was still standing. In fact, it was lean and it seemed to be operating better.
So you're managing with more people. So we actually realized having less people and the top performers would actually lead to better results. Because what you realize as a company is that the top 20% of performers drive the top 80% of results. So why do you want the other 80%? You want only the top performers at the company, and you want to make sure those top performers are properly incentivized, structured properly, and they have the resources they need to be successful. I used to believe the smartest people, they went to the best universities. They went to Harvard, they went to Yale, they went to Stanford. That's actually not true. And oftentimes when we've hired those people, we've actually been disappointed and we've been wrong. We wanted everyone to think about being kind of the day zero, day one employees that were building, that were solving problems. And what happened was Vise had gone from a seed stage company to a $1 billion company in 18 months. It was record fast timing. I was the youngest person in history to have a $1 billion company. And what happened was we started to recruit a lot of the wrong people. We recruited people that were here to kind of get rich. They were mercenaries. They wanted to join Vise and expected it to be a rocket ship and expected them not to have to solve problems. When in reality, we were still an early stage startup and we needed to do a major shift. We had built the wrong culture. We had hired the wrong people, and we had to make hard decisions to let a lot of those people go and to change the mental model internally to, we're not a big company that's made it. We're a company that is figuring it out, that's gonna win because we are all problem solvers, we're all thinkers, and we're all hustling to make it happen just like we did in the early days of the company. The way to actually think about talent and hiring the best talent is to think about like a framework I call SKQs, skills, knowledge, and qualities. Really focusing on qualities. Is this person willing to work super duper hard? Are they someone who can learn? Are they flexible? Are they open to taking feedback? Are they driven? Are they motivated? At Vise, we have 3 core values: burn the boats, customer obsession, and 1% better every day. Number 1, we want people that are committed, they're all in on the mission, they're willing to go through any walls, run through any walls, go through any challenges to be successful in the business. They're truly they have this burn the boats mentality. 2, 1% better every day. If you're 1% better every day, you're far, far better at the end of the year. And it's those little changes you make every single day to constantly evolve. It's not about the big changes, it's about the little changes. And those learnings compound, and your organization compounds as a result of those learnings. And the last, and probably one of the most important values, is customer obsession. Making the customer truly embedded as part of our entire organization. Everyone in every decision is thinking about, how is the customer impacted? How are we going to drive more value to the customer? Putting the customer ahead of everyone, even if it comes out at a personal cost to our company.
I believe that's pretty. Do you want your part? Okay, cool. Let's read the comment section because some of the comments anyways, because I'm quite excited about that. A high school dropout, that's crazy at 23 years old. Okay, this guy's just under. All right, we'll give him a like. Recognize. Okay, the same thing. At such a young age, he has so much wisdom and courage to follow his passion at any cost. Worked hard. Truly inspirational, man. Very inspirational. I agree. One thing I can say for sure is that never ignore that hunger, that calling that forces you to look unreasonable in the eyes of the society. Yes, so true. Boy, with every sentence, I have to pause the video and take notes because he's a genius. Isn't it crazy how someone can be so young, but with such wisdom that it's like, wow. You can't help but stop and literally assess and say, whoa, like, who's your parents? That's what I want to find out. Where did you learn from? How did you learn this? You know, it's very fascinating. Let me know if you can relate in the comment section down below. But it's like sometimes when I see these young kids, it's like, wow, that's truly amazing. Truly amazing. But there's nothing stopping you. That's why I made this video, to show you that it's possible. If it's possible for one, it is possible for all. But you need to be willing to go all in, essentially. And say, I don't want the feeling of regret 15 years from now, 26 years from now. I don't want to look back and say, what if, man? What if I did create that company or start that company? Maybe I wouldn't be in this situation. Life is all about grabbing opportunities. So my challenge or my question to you is, what are you doing with your opportunities? Smash the like button, share, comment, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.